Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Authors. I'm your host, Srijan Das, and today we're being joined by the esteemed author John Green, author of Looking for Alaska, which was on the New York Times bestseller, and an author of an even more famous book, The Fault in Our Stars. Thank you. Thank you all. I really appreciate this opportunity. In case you don't know anything about John Green, you may be living under a rock. He's the author of The Fault in Our Stars, which is about a girl from Indiana named Hazel Grace Lanchester, who is a girl diagnosed with thyroid cancer and supposedly clinically depressed. It is about her journey, which started off with meeting with Augustus Waller, who also has cancer, whom she met at a place where her mother made her go to, called Support Group, and to whom Hazel is attracted to. She goes on many adventures while meeting Augustus Waters, and she ends up meeting her favorite author, who ends up being a jerk. The book and movie will make you feel every emotion you could think of, and it is one of the best books I have ever read. If you would like to find out more about Hazel and Augustus and their tragic love story and adventures, I would suggest you read the book. And even though this is only my opinion, I believe that it is the best romance novel you will ever read about cancer. But today, it is not only about the book, but its movie debut, which was directed by Josh Boone. I'm really excited to get into these questions. I'm glad to hear that, and I'm also excited to be sitting in front of you today. Okay, first question. Why do you think your book and the Hollywood adaptation got so much love from young fans? I think it's because that Hazel is like any other teenager, and it made her relatable. The book and the film seemed more real, mainly because I did have inspirations for it, which is why if you were to read the book, you would see at the beginning it says to Esther Earl, who is a girl whom I met who died in 2010 with a similar cancer to which Hazel had, and her story and her personality really helped shape this film. So it is more about how real it feels and how the depression applies to other teenagers. And Hazel may have reminded other young adults of themselves because of the specific way that she acts. That's why I think it did so well. I think it's got even more love because of the idea that this girl with cancer will try her best to achieve her dreams. And it has really gained a large fan base, and I'm proud to be the author of this novel. That's a great response. I personally agree as a young adult that she really reminded me of myself, just a teenager trying to achieve her dreams, and cancer is the only obstacle in her way, making it harder for her. Now the next question. What do you think about the omission of the character Caitlin? Do you think it was a good decision to cut down the extent of the movie? Or do you think that it had a big impact on the viewer's understanding of Hazel? Caitlin at one point of the novel was Hazel's best friend and had an impact at the end of the novel, but the more we saw of Augustus, the less we saw of Caitlin, which was pretty much the whole book. Caitlin overall in my novel only appeared a few times, and I'm not going to say she's an irrelevant character, because she's definitely not. But I believe as the author of the novel that it was an okay decision to cut down on screen time just because of the very few appearances of this character in the novel. That is true. I believe she only appeared in 2 parts of the novel, if I'm correct. True. Very true. Literary-wise, do you think that the book's message, story, and dialogue were represented well in the movie? Many parts of the novel are already in dialogue form, which made it easier for the screenwriters to adapt your novel. If I were to answer this simply, my answer would be a definite yes. I would like to compliment Scott Neustadter and Michael Weber on the screenwriting of this film, because they did such a great job. It was almost identical to the novel in some parts. And in some scenes, they basically quoted the novel, such as when Hazel reads Augustus his eulogy to him in the literal heart of Jesus. And she said, "I can't tell you how thankful I am for our little infinity," which is probably the most emotional scene in my book and the Hollywood adaptation. And they represented that really well as countless other scenes. They really spread the message well of the fact that people with cancer are people, not animals. Sometimes people with cancer can be metaphorically more human than people without cancer, and the film really did a great job in spreading this message and many more. Why do you think that the ending was so different in the book than it was in the movie? Do you think that the ending of the movie was better than the book or not? I think one thing about the movie I didn't really enjoy was the ending. I think that if you watch the movie first, that it would be a satisfying ending, but if you were to read my novel first, you would understand why I'm not satisfied. The ending of the movie is way too short. It ends with Isaac, one of Hazel and Augustus's friends, whom she met at support group, telling her that Van Houten had gone from Amsterdam to Indiana just to give Gus's eulogy to Hazel, and she reads it. Even though to some it may seem like a satisfying ending, it would only be like that if they had seen the film first. However, in the book, the ending is she goes on the phone with Caitlin. This is where she would be a relevant character, who ends up reminding Hazel of Van Houten, and it gives her the idea that maybe Augustus, may have sent the eulogy to Van Houten because in an earlier scene in the book, Van Houten told her that he talked a lot with Augustus in his final days. Then she ends up asking Van Houten's assistant, Lidovig, who ends up finding Gus's eulogy, and she sends it to her via email, and she reads it. And so, in my opinion, my novel is better because they got the eulogy correct, but the ending was quite different. And so I believe that my book had a better ending. I agree with your statement. The book's ending, after seeing both, is much better than that of the film. Last question. I read your book and I felt that one of the key messages was no matter what obstacle is in your way, live your life to the fullest and don't let anything stop you. Do you think that the movie helped spread this universal truth as well as your book did? Yes, I believe that the film represented this message well, showing that two people with cancer can fall in love as well as two normal people can fall in love. They're no different than any normal person. They are not strange, they're extraordinary. People should think about how hard it must be for these people to be happy with who they are. I believe that showing the love between these two people with cancer had a good way to represent this. I think that's time, folks, but before we go, I would like everyone to applaud Mr. John Green here. He is truly a great author, and I suggest you read The Fault in Our Stars and watch the film. They are both good, and it's a really good read. Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you.